The silence before the storm. The first strikes came like whispers in the night. Alien fleets, confident and arrogant, slipped into human space. Their commanders believed the campaign would be quick and glorious. To them, humanity was a loud, but fragile species, untested against the weight of ancient empires. The first world to fall was Hallstrom, a distant colony far from Earth. Its skies burned as alien warships descended, raining fire on cities, farms, and outposts. The defenders stood little chance. The colony's defense fleet was small, and its ground soldiers were outnumbered. But the humans did not run. They fought with everything they had. Old ships, outdated weapons, even farming tools turned into weapons. Families joined the soldiers. Children carried messages through smoke-filled streets. Pilots rammed their crippled fighters into alien cruisers, preferring death to surrender. In the end, Hallstrom fell. Survivors were chained and paraded before alien cameras, trophies for the coalition that wanted to prove humanity's weakness. Messages were sent to the Galactic Council, boasting of victory. "The human frontier is ours," the invaders declared. "They are too weak to resist." The council chamber filled with applause. Delegates laughed, mocking the human warnings they had heard before. Some said the humans had finally been put in their place. To them, it was the natural order of things, strong empires ruling over weaker ones. But not everyone laughed. In the shadows of the chamber, a few silent delegates exchanged uneasy looks. They had seen the reports. They had studied the details. Despite overwhelming odds, the humans of Hallstrom had resisted longer than expected. Even when defeat was certain, they fought until their weapons were shattered and their homes lay in ruins. They refused to surrender. That kind of defiance was rare. It was dangerous. Still, the galaxy ignored those warnings. The coalition pressed deeper into human space. More colonies were attacked. More cities burned. Each time humans fought with the same desperate fury. On one world, a group of miners collapsed tunnels on top of alien soldiers, trapping them underground. On another, settlers poisoned their own supplies so nothing useful could be taken. Even in defeat, humans left scars. The coalition called it foolishness. They mocked humanity's stubbornness, calling it a waste of life. But whispers began to move among the lower ranks of alien soldiers. They spoke in quiet voices, saying humans were not like others. They fought even when they could not win. They refused to break. Back on Earth, there was no loud response, no threats, no begging, no cries for peace. Humanity's homeworld was silent. The fleets stopped moving. The colonies pulled back, fortifying themselves instead of striking. It seemed to the galaxy that Earth was paralyzed by fear. To the arrogant empires, silence meant weakness. They told themselves humanity had finally accepted its fate, but others began to worry. Silence, true silence, can be more frightening than screams. In the Galactic Council, the human delegate returned once more. His face was cold, his words sharper than before. "You let this happen," he said. "You ignored the warning. You think we are weak, but soon you will see the truth." The chamber erupted in laughter again. One alien lord sneered and shouted, "The truth is already clear. Humanity is nothing." The human looked at him, his eyes calm, almost emotionless. He said nothing more. He simply turned and left the chamber. The silence he left behind was heavier than any speech. Even those who mocked him felt unsettled. Meanwhile, Earth worked quietly. Shipyards hidden in shadow built new vessels. Scientists tested weapons that no one in the galaxy had ever seen. Colonies dug deeper defenses and created traps in the dark corners of space. But no announcements were made. No threats were sent. The humans simply prepared. On the colony of Lorien, when the alien fleet arrived, they found the cities empty. Evacuation had been perfect, as if the settlers had known the exact hour of attack. What they left behind were mines hidden in orbit, ambush ships cloaked in the dark, and traps waiting for the invaders. Many alien vessels never returned. Rumors spread fast. Soldiers whispered that the humans were planning something. Commanders dismissed it as nonsense, insisting humanity was too young and too weak to be dangerous. Yet the doubts grew stronger with every strange report. The silence of Earth spread across the stars like a shadow. Trade routes grew quiet. Human ambassadors stopped speaking in the council. Messages from colonies became rare. It was as if humanity had stepped back into the darkness, watching, waiting. The coalition leaders celebrated their victories, blind to the truth. They believed they were breaking humanity, teaching them to bow before the great empires of the galaxy. But in their arrogance, they failed to see the pattern forming. Humanity was not panicking. Humanity was not surrendering. Humanity was waiting, the silence before the storm had begun. Shadows in the dark, the raids continued. Colony after colony was struck, each invasion carried out with arrogance and certainty. Alien fleets moved with pride, their commanders promising their people that humanity would soon be nothing more than a footnote in galactic history. Yet something began to shift. The reports coming back from the front were not what the coalition expected. Yes, colonies were falling. Yes, human ships were being destroyed. But every battle seemed to cost more than it should. Commanders complained of ambushes hidden in asteroid belts, of minefields scattered through trade routes, of strange weapons that seemed too advanced for such a young species. Still, the galaxy celebrated. In the council chambers, delegates dismissed the odd details. They waved them away as excuses from careless generals. They told themselves that the humans were merely prolonging the inevitable. Yet in quiet corners, whispers began to spread. On the colony of Vera, alien forces swept in expecting quick conquest. But the humans there had prepared. Entire cities were abandoned in silence, their streets lined with explosives hidden beneath the ground. When alien troops marched through, the streets themselves erupted, swallowing soldiers and machines in fire. Survivors spoke in trembling voices of humans who fought like shadows, vanishing only to strike again when least expected. Commanders grew frustrated. They had studied other wars. Conquered species begged, surrendered, and fell in line. Humanity was different. They fought even when defeat was certain. They poisoned their own wells, collapsed their own tunnels, destroyed their own homes, anything to deny the enemy a prize. Victory began to taste bitter. Then the disappearances started. At first it was only a few patrols. A squadron of frigates entered human space and never returned. Weeks later, an entire fleet of destroyers was reported missing. No distress signals were sent. No wreckage was found. Only silence remained. The coalition tried to hide the truth, but soldiers talked. Stories spread faster than any order could stop. They whispered of ghost fleets, of human ships that appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Some claimed the humans had found ways to bend space, to strike from impossible angles. Others said the humans were cursed, touched by some darkness that no technology could explain. One report, smuggled out by a frightened officer, told of a battle near the Red Star of Kasara. An alien fleet of 20 ships engaged what they thought was a single human freighter. But when they closed in, the freighter exploded, and from the wreckage emerged a swarm of human fighters hidden inside. The battle lasted only minutes. When it ended, nothing remained of the alien fleet. The Galactic Council grew uneasy. Debates turned bitter. Some warned that humanity was dangerous, that their silence meant something more than weakness. Others mocked the idea, insisting humans were merely buying time before their final defeat. But deep down, fear began to take root. The human delegate did not return to the chamber. No messages were sent. No speeches were made. The silence stretched on, heavy and cold. It was as if humanity had vanished from the galaxy's stage. Yet the absence was louder than any threat. Delegates who had once laughed at human warnings now found themselves waking at night, haunted by the memory of those calm words, "Do not provoke us." On the world of Aridin, the coalition declared another victory. Human prisoners were paraded in chains, mocked and beaten before alien cameras, the streets filled with cheering soldiers. But that night, the sky above the colony pulsed with a strange signal. It was brief, just a single human transmission. "Remember this." Hours later, the barracks of the alien army exploded in flames. No one ever discovered how the humans had done it. The message was clear. The coalition continued to press forward, blind in arrogance. They believed humanity was breaking, but the truth was far more dangerous. Humanity was not broken. Humanity was waiting. In secret shipyards hidden across Earth and its colonies, new fleets were rising. Ships larger than anything humans had ever built before. Weapons that bent light and tore through armor like paper. Engines that roared with power no other species had seen. The galaxy saw only silence. But in the darkness, humanity was sharpening its teeth, and soon, the shadows would strike. The Colossus awakens at the edge of human space. A coalition fleet gathered in full strength. 50 warships, armed and armored, moved through the stars with confidence. Their commanders spoke boldly of another easy conquest, another colony that would fall in days. They carried banners of victory, certain that humanity was running out of places to hide. For weeks, the galaxy had been hearing rumors, strange stories of vanishing fleets, of ghost ships, of impossible ambushes. But the coalition laughed at such tales. They believed in numbers. They believed in their ancient empires, their long traditions of war. Against 50 ships, they said, no human force could stand. And then the shadows moved. From behind the dark side of a dead moon, something vast emerged. At first, the alien fleet thought it was an asteroid drifting loose from its orbit. But then blue light flared. Engines roared to life, cutting across the void with thunder. The asteroid shifted, revealing its true form. It was a ship. A warship. But nothing like the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull was black and angular, drinking in the light of the stars. Along its surface ran glowing lines, energy veins pulsing like molten fire. Its engines burned brighter than suns, and its sheer size dwarfed even the largest coalition battleships. For a moment, silence filled every channel. The fleet had never seen such a monster. Then panic erupted. Sensors screamed with warnings. The alien commanders shouted orders, weapons locking on the colossal human ship. Missiles, plasma bolts, and beams of raw energy filled the void. The barrage lit up the darkness, striking against the warship's armor. But nothing happened. The weapons burned like sparks against stone. The ship did not flinch. Its black hull absorbed the fire, and still it advanced, silent and unstoppable. Then humanity answered. A broadside erupted from the giant's flank. Lances of white-hot energy streaked across the void, faster than the eye could follow. Alien shields shattered like glass. Cruisers split cleanly in half, their wreckage scattering into the dark. Within seconds, 10 ships were gone. The fleet tried to retreat, but the Colossus was faster. Its weapons reached across impossible distances, tearing apart ships that thought themselves safe. Every shot was precise, deliberate, merciless. The aliens screamed for reinforcements, for strategy, for salvation, but there was none. In less than 1 hour, the coalition fleet of 50 ships was reduced to twisted wreckage drifting through space. Survivors floated in escape pods, staring in disbelief at the black shape that had destroyed them. The human warship did not pursue. It did not boast. It simply vanished back into the shadows, leaving only silence and fear. The news spread faster than light. The galaxy trembled. Ancient empires that had mocked humanity now whispered of the Colossus, the human war machine that could not be broken. Delegates in the council chamber fell into silence. The laughter that had once filled the hall was gone. For the first time, fear sat among them. But the coalition leaders refused to see the truth. They rallied more fleets, demanding vengeance. Hundreds of ships were gathered, the largest armada the galaxy had seen in centuries. They told themselves that the humans had built only one monster. They told themselves that numbers would win where single fleets had failed. But deep in the hearts of soldiers, unease grew. The stories of the Colossus spread through every barrack, every camp. They whispered that humanity had more of them, hidden in the dark, waiting. Some soldiers began to dream of it. A black shape rising from shadow, glowing veins of fire, weapons like storms. Many woke in fear, their courage broken before battle even began. Still, the orders came. The Grand Armada marched toward human space, hundreds of ships moving together like a tide. Their leaders promised glory. They promised that this would be the final battle, the end of humanity. But when they entered human space, they found only silence. No fleets, no resistance, only the cold emptiness of the void. And then the trap was sprung. From hidden stations buried in asteroids, from cloaked ships drifting in the dark, From the shadows themselves, human weapons struck. Missiles streaked across space. Energy lances ripped through shields. Entire squadrons vanished in fire before they could even form their lines. Then from the darkness more warships appeared. Not just the colossus, but others. Smaller, faster, yet no less deadly. They moved with impossible speed, weaving through the battlefield like predators. Their weapons cut through armor as if it were paper. Their strikes were cold, precise, and merciless. The alien armada fell into chaos. Commanders shouted for formations, for strategy, for order, but none could be found. Ships scattered, desperate to survive, but the humans gave them no chance. The void became a storm of fire, every explosion a reminder of arrogance. Within hours, what had been the galaxy's greatest fleet was nothing more than wreckage drifting in silence. Across the stars, empires watched in horror. The humans had revealed their hand, and the truth was worse than anyone had feared. They had not built one colossus. They had built many, and each one was a promise. The reckoning had begun. The reckoning. The galaxy had never seen silence like this. After the fall of the Great Coalition Armada, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Messages spread faster than light, carrying the same news to every world. Humanity had shattered the invincible fleet. A young species, mocked and dismissed as fragile, had destroyed in weeks what ancient empires had built over centuries. Everywhere, fear took root. On trade worlds, merchants whispered in terror. In military barracks, soldiers shared ghost stories of the colossus and the fleets that struck from shadows. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, once filled with laughter at human warnings, there was only silence and dread. But humanity did not pause. The silence broke into thunder. Human fleets swept across the stars. They did not rage wildly or destroy without thought. Their movements were cold, calculated, exact. Supply depots were annihilated. Command centers were turned to ash. Entire planets surrendered without a fight, their leaders begging for mercy before a single human ship entered orbit. On Hallstrom, the first colony that had fallen, humanity returned. Survivors wept as human soldiers freed them, but the alien occupiers were given no mercy. Every fortress was leveled, every warship in orbit was burned, and on the ruins of their cities the message was written, "You were warned." The galaxy trembled. On Tauren Prime, the capital of a coalition empire, alien leaders sent desperate signals. They promised to withdraw from human space, to pay reparations, to undo their crimes. They begged for negotiations, for a chance at peace. But the humans did not reply. Their silence was worse than words. Then the sky above Tauren Prime turned black. Human warships appeared, blotting out the stars. Bombardment began within hours. Towers that had stood for 10,000 years crumbled into dust. Fortresses exploded into fire. The mighty fleets in orbit were erased in minutes. Streets filled with screams, but no rescue came. In only 3 days, the Empire was gone, erased from the galaxy as if it had never existed. And still, the humans advanced. Coalition worlds fell one by one. Strongholds collapsed. Fortresses turned to ruins. Armies that had once believed themselves unstoppable now fled in terror, abandoning their own territories, leaving their people to face the storm alone. Some begged for mercy. Others offered tribute, even fleets, hoping to survive. But humanity had not forgotten. In the Galactic Council, desperation grew. The same chamber that had once mocked humanity now shook with fear. Delegates shouted over each other, demanding that someone stop the humans. Some begged to open peace talks. Others whispered that it was already too late, that humanity would never forgive. And then, at last, a human delegate returned to the council chamber. He stood in silence for a long moment. The same calm figure, the same quiet eyes, the same voice that had once been dismissed as foolish. But now no one laughed. No one mocked him. They sat frozen, trembling, waiting for words they no longer dared ignore. Finally he spoke. His voice was steady, calm, heavy with the weight of judgment. "We warned you," he said. "We asked for peace. You gave us war. You thought us weak. You thought us small. Now you see the truth. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. No one answered. No one dared. The delegate turned and walked away, leaving silence behind him. But it was not the silence of weakness this time. It was the silence of fear, the silence of an entire galaxy brought to its knees. In the weeks that followed, the reckoning spread. Empires that had once stood for millennia were broken. Civilizations that had called themselves mighty now begged for survival. Humanity advanced like a force of nature, patient, merciless, unstoppable. On distant worlds, children grew up with new stories, not stories of alien empires or galactic pride, but stories whispered of the humans who came from a small blue planet and brought the stars to heal. They were told of the silence that came before the storm, of the reckoning that followed, of the words that echoed through the galaxy. Do not provoke us. At last, when the flames cooled and the stars grew quiet again, humanity stepped back into silence. They did not boast. They did not demand thrones or crowns. They simply watched, and every species in the